very best for will surely come on 2020.
Yes, all the best. Bye.
Team Biofuck India would like to thank all their partners, exhibitors, and visitors to the show.
We look forward to welcoming you all again in 2020. Stay connected.
Hello, everybody. We send out a warm welcome to you, and we are happy to see you here for the second edition of our organic webinars, a series hosted by Nuremberg Messe India, Biofuck India, and created by BioReporter International. The BioReporter International team, that is Sandeep, based in Bangalore, board member of IFOAM Asia, and he is being active since more than a decade in the organic sector as consultant, founder, speaker, organizer of diverse events, and much more.
This is Karen Heinz, based close to Frankfurt in Germany. She is the founder of BioReporter International Communication Service. She has been in the organic sector for around 40 years now as an organic journalist, photographer, videographer, and always inspired by the ideas of the worldwide organic movement.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. Dear attendees, with the organic webinar series, we would like to update you with the help of our esteemed panelists, experts from the international sector and the Indian industry. And Sandeep and me, we have the honor to guide you through the program. We have 90 minutes ahead, full of information, high quality presentations, discussions, and your questions. But first, Shiva Kumar Venugopal, Group Director and member of the Management Board of Nuremberg Messe, will give his welcome note to us.
Thank you, Karen. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone from India. On behalf of Nuremberg Messe India, it's my pleasure to welcome one and all to our series of webinar, which will for sure be an interactive engagement platform for the organic industry in India for the next few months. Pleasure to welcome our esteemed panelists and delegates to the webinar organized by Nuremberg Messe India on the topic current status for exports from India, future trends and opportunities under the ambit of Biofuck India. As you all know, which is India's biggest exhibition for the organic sector, being organized with an aim of bringing various domain experts together on a single platform to address the key issues of sustainability and healthy living. Of course, our sincere thanks to ABIDA for their continuous support in organizing Biofuck with us. I'd like to start by thanking all our partners and esteemed panelists for sparing the valuable time for this program, which shows their commitment to actively contribute to the webinar and the industry. Today, on the occasion of this webinar, the second in the series, I would like to welcome our esteemed panelists, Ms. Louise, Executive Director, IFOAM Organics International, Mr. Amarjit Sahota, Founder and President, Ecovia Intelligence, formerly known as Organic Monitor, Mr. Surya Shastry, Managing Director, Phalada Agro Research Foundations Private Limited, and Mr. Saurabh Tiwari, Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, Organic India Private Limited. And of course, a warm welcome to our moderators, Ms. Karen Heinz, Founder, BioReporter International Germany, and Mr. Sandeep Kamath, Board Member, IFOAM Asia, for their valuable ideas, knowledge, and time to make this program a successful one. Glad to inform you all that today we have more than 250 delegates attending from across India and other countries. Once again, welcoming all the delegates for the session and extremely grateful for your continuous support to our Biofuck events over the years. I'm sure this webinar will offer all of us unlimited opportunities and knowledge transfer from the stalwarts of the organic industry. To make the program more interactive, we will be having a poll and question answer sessions during the series. I also thank our supporting association, Ecovia, the International Competence Center for Organic Agriculture, OFI, the Organic Farming Association of India, the Association of Indian Organic Industry, and our media partner, Pure and Eco India, for their support at the series of webinars. Now I will leave the floor open for discussions and presentations. Thank you. I request Mr. Sandeep and Karen to take it forward.
Thank you, Shivu. Dear audience, to make the webinar as interesting, helpful, and interactive for you, Let me explain a couple of technical issues on Zoom to have a lively discussion and an interactive session with you. To make our voice quality as best as possible, I request all the panelists, when you're not speaking, to keep your thing on mute. Only speakers will have their mic switched on. And all the participants, on your Zoom screen at the bottom, you will see a comment chat box where you can put your comments and anything. And any questions you have, please put it in the question and answer box, which is on the extreme right. And we will try to get back to you with as many of them as we can. We will have a quick poll in the middle of the session so that we can get feedback from you. And after the session, you will get a feedback form as well to help us improve our presentation. And now over to Karen to introduce our first speaker.
Yeah, thank you, Sandeep. So again, for all who joined us later, good day and welcome on the other side of the computers and devices in India and other continents, wherever you are. In the first part of our organic webinars, we have two international experts who will update us in statistics, developments, and challenges of the global organic market. The first expert is, and it's my pleasure to introduce Amarjit Sahota. Hello, Amarjit. He is the founder and president of Ecovia Intelligence, formerly known as Organic Monitor, a London-based specialist research, consulting, and training firm that specializes on global sustainable products industry. Amarjit's company organizes the Sustainable Food Summits, Sustainable Cosmetic Summits, and Sustainable Cleaning Product Summits in Europe, Asia, North, and Latin America. Amarjit is the expert for international research and analysis of the sustainable and organic sector. And he has been quoted extensively in the media like Financial Times, The Independent, BBC World Service, The Economist, and many more. He regularly also delivers papers at international trade fairs and events, each year also at BioFach in Nuremberg. Amarjit, it's a pleasure to have you with us. The screen is yours, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. And it's a pleasure to be here to give this webinar. So it's great to be part of the Nuremberg Messe series for BioFach India. In my presentation, I'd like to talk about the global market for organic food and drink. So for the next 10 minutes, what I want to do is to give a brief overview in terms of what's happening in the global market, what are the latest trends. I want to talk about COVID-19 because this is affecting every part of our lives and it's also affecting the organic food industry. And then I want to finish by giving you some food for thought. What do we expect to see in the future? Karina gave me a very nice introduction. She talked about my company. Here's a brief overview in terms of what we do. We do market and technical research. We were actually formed in 2001 as Organic Monitor, and we were the first company to start tracking the global organic food industry from 2001. And we changed our name in 2017 because we were doing a lot of summits and we were doing seminars and workshops on related sectors. So we do a Sustainable Food Summit in Europe, North and Latin America, and in Asia Pacific, and we do a Sustainable Cosmetic Summit, a Sustainable Cleaning Product Summit. But if you need more information, there's our website. So coming straight to the market data, the global market for organic food and drink in 2018, it surpassed $100 billion US for the first time. It was worth $105 billion US. Most sales are concentrated in Europe and North America, which represent about 90% of sales. The biggest markets are in USA, Germany, France, Canada, then other European countries, including Italy, Switzerland, UK, etc. Next. So this chart here shows you how this market has showing very high growth. If you look at the last 18 years, we've gone from $18 billion US to $105.5 billion US. And if you went backwards to the 1990s, this was only worth a few billion US dollars. So we've shown a very, very high growth in this organic food market. And what we've shown here is the plot between the market shares of Europe, North America, Asia, and other regions. And as you can see, when we started off in the year 2000, most sales, about 97%, were from Europe and North America. Now, although those two regions still represent the majority, the share of Asia and other regions has actually increased. Now it's close to 10%. So we've gone from 3% from other regions down to about 10%. And Asia is an important part of that, as you can see. Next. So what are the major drivers? At the global level, we see four major drivers of growth. The first driver is about growing health concerns. Consumers are really concerned about pesticides, about growth promoters, about herbicides and chemicals in their food. And this is the big driver why consumers are buying organic foods. Another big driver is food and health scares. So we've seen a lot of scares in Asia. We've seen SARS, we've seen avian bird flu, and this year we've seen the coronavirus, and that's having a knock-on effect on organic food sales. In terms of distribution, a big driver is that distribution of organic foods is increasing, not just in the retail channels, but in non-retail channels. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And in North America, a big driver is consumers do not want to have GMOs or genetically modified organisms in their food products. And traditionally, the only way that you could guarantee that there was no GMOs in your food products was to buy organic. I know there's been certification schemes now which are representing non-GMO, but traditionally it was the only way you could confirm that your products were non-GMO or GM-free was to buy organic. So talking about one of the big drivers in the market is private labels. When I talked about retail distribution, almost all the big retailers in Europe and North America, and increasingly in Asia, are selling organic foods under their private labels. I've just got some examples over here. The one in the top left-hand corner is in France, and that's the Auchan hypermarket. They're selling over 100 organic products for less than €1. You've got Netherlands, you've got Albert Heijn, the supermarket chain, and they're selling over 1,300 organic products under their private label. And the one in the bottom corner over there is Co-op Switzerland. Their private label, actually, their private labels for organic foods represent over half of all organic food sales in the country. And I've got Tesco Organic here in the UK. They've got over 800 organic products under their brand. Next. Now, I talked about retail, but also we're seeing big developments in terms of organic foods being introduced by the catering and food service sector. And I've got some examples over here. In France, in the top left-hand corner, over half of all catering and food service establishments, including restaurants, bars, cafes, etc., are using organic ingredients. We've got in the top right-hand corner, the Organic Coop. That's a fast food chain of organic foods opened up in California. They now have 12 of these in the USA. And then coming to France, you have a Bio-Burger, which is from a fast food chain called Quality, and that was introduced a few years ago. McDonald's in the UK, Sweden, and Germany are serving organic milk. IKEA and Pret a Manger are sourcing organic ingredients. So this is a big development. It's not just the retailers, but catering and food service establishments are using organic ingredients and serving organic products. Next. Now, the topic on everyone's minds at the moment is coronavirus. Most of Europe, North America, including India, we've been working from home for the last few months. And this has really changed the way that we live, it's changing the way that we eat, and it's also changed the way that we shop. So just to summarize some of the key ways that this is affecting the organic food industry, we've got 6 major points over here, and I just want to briefly cover them. The first thing is we've seen globalization of the organic food industry over the last 20, 30 years. What this virus will do is going to cause a reverse of that globalization, whereby where companies were sourcing organic ingredients from different parts of the world, we've seen so much disruption in the last few months that companies will now start sourcing more locally and regionally for those organic ingredients because they can't afford to have that disruption where freights are being held up or containers have been held up on ports and there's been additional quarantine measures. So we're going to see a reverse of what we've seen in the last 20, 30 years, where there's going to be more localized supply chains for agricultural products, and organic ingredients is going to be part of that. The second one is food security. Countries have realized that they can no longer afford to import high levels of food. And what we're seeing is countries like France and other countries are putting more focus on domestic production. They're realizing that we need to feed our populations. We can't just keep importing from different parts of the world. And this is going to have an effect on organic agriculture as well. And the last point there is the government support. More and more countries are going to be promoting organic farming as a sustainable food system as they're looking to become more resilient to outbreaks or disruption of food products in the future. Looking in terms of the market on the right-hand side, the first thing is consumer behavior. What we've seen is a rise in demand for organic foods here in Europe, in North America, and other parts of the world, as consumers are caring more about personal immunity. They're realizing that the food that we eat has a direct impact on our personal health and well-being, and they want to buy more organic foods, more natural products, as they want to build up their immune systems. But also retailers, we're seeing a big change in the way that we shop. Online retailing has been a real big benefactor of the virus. More and more consumers are buying online, and it's opened up online retailing to a bigger section of the population that would never otherwise have considered it. And also the way that we do physical shopping. We tend to be going shopping less often, but doing more buying more products or filling up our baskets a lot more per visit. So that's having a big change in the way that we buy organic products as well. And the last point is transparency and traceability. This virus has made consumers more aware of what they eat and the way that they lead their lives. They're asking more questions about ingredients, where they're sourced, where the products are made, and also what does organic mean? What does organic mean in Europe? What does it mean in India? And also, where are those organic products made, and how can we confirm that they are actually what they say they are? So that's briefly how COVID-19 is affecting the global organic food market. We expect to see more and more of these changes in the coming year. The second trend I want to talk about is eco-label proliferation. Now, organic was the first eco-label introduced in the food industry. It was introduced in the 1990s. And I remember giving a presentation about 20 years ago, and the food industry was black and white. It was either organic or it was conventional. But now you've got over 200 different eco-labels in the food industry, representing some environmental, social, or ethical attributes. And organic is just one of them. So this is having a big effect on the market, whereby we're seeing more and more labels on food products. Next. And just to highlight this trend, what we're seeing is products being multiple certified. They're having certification of various standards. And I've got some examples over here. If you look in the middle there, Coffee Masters is actually marketed as a triple certified coffee. It's certified organic, and it's got 2 organic logos. Certified fair trade. It's certified, I think it's shade-grown coffee, as well as Rainforest Alliance. And also there's a chocolate brand there, which has got 4 different logos. You've got Pukka, which is now owned by Unilever. They're actively marketing that brand based on certification schemes. So this has a big impact also for Indian producers, because if this is the trend, then the question is, how many different certification schemes do you need for your organic product to make it successful in Europe and North America, if this is the trend? So next. The other trend I want to talk about is consumers are becoming more and more concerned about health and wellness. And as a result of that we're seeing a big rise in vegetarianism and veganism in Europe and North America. Now, I realize India has got a very large population of vegetarians and vegetarian food is very established, but it's not the same in Europe, it's not the same in USA, in Brazil. And I just want to show two different plots here. The first table on the top shows you the increase in number of vegetarians in Europe. The highest number is in Italy, 10%. Then you've got Germany and Switzerland, 9%. And if you went back to about 20, 30 years ago, you're talking about 2 or 3% of the population. And the next plot over there shows you the large increase in products which are labeled as vegan. And vegan is a very big trend where products don't have any animal-based ingredients like milk, honey, or eggs. And this, what we're seeing as a result of that is the number of consumers in Europe and North America are becoming more vegan, they're becoming vegetarian or flexitarian, where they're eating meat, but they're having more vegetarian and vegan products in their diet. Next. Now, this is important because if you looked at 20 years ago, nearly all of these dairy-free, meat-free products in Europe were also organic. And if you look on the left there, I've got some examples. Oatly, an oat drink which was launched in Sweden, was first marketed as only organic. Now, less than half of those sales are organic. Provamel, which is the leading brand of soya-based products in Europe, was initially only organic, and now you've also got Alpro, the sister brand, which is for conventional, and then you've got tofu products, which are Demeter certified. But the big trend now is that these plant-based foods or meat-free, dairy-free products are not organic, but they're sold as conventional products and they're marketed to be as close to the conventional products as possible. Now, this is an important trend because sales of organic foods could be cannibalized by those products because consumers are buying them for health reasons, because of animal welfare and ethical considerations. And those are the, I won't say exactly the same, but very similar reasons why consumers are buying organic foods. So this trend is a possible threat. And that's what I wanted to say today, this afternoon. I just wanted to lay an overview of what's happening in the global market and what are the big trends which are happening.
Very much for this interesting and good overview, very informative.
It's my pleasure now to introduce Louise Luttikholt. She's the Executive Director of IFOAM Organics International, and she has visited India many times. She has extensive experience in organic agriculture, fair trade, and the development cooperation at a strategic, management, and regulatory level. Since 2014, she has worked as the Director of Helvetas Germany and as a Senior Advisor for Sustainable Agriculture at Helvetas Swiss Intercorporation. Prior to this, she has held various roles at Fairtrade International, IFOAM Organics International, Biologica, and others. She is grounded in the principles of organic agriculture and was also the driving force behind the articulation process of them. Louise wants to build the resilience of the organic sector and sees it reach out from a strong foundation to show wider audiences and stakeholders that organic agriculture is a means to help heal the world. And also very important for us, she has been the midwife of the India Organic Network, which was formed last BioFARC, and it's a first umbrella organization of the Indian organic movement. So thank you so much for that, Louise. And please, the screen is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Sandeep. This is a wonderful introduction. I'm really pleased to be at your session, at your seminar this afternoon. Good afternoon to everybody in India. It's still morning here in Europe, from which I'm presenting. And what I'm going to share with you today are the trends and challenges in organic sector growth. And I will mainly look at the production side, whereas the former speaker, Amarjit, has mainly looked at the market side. And I hope that after this presentation, we will be able to bring those two things together and get a full picture, and also look at what is behind the market. And I will focus a lot on producers and production. So in summary, we can say the organic sector is growing. That's very good news. And we saw that also in the presentation of Amarjit on the markets. But my message is also, we need way more of it. And that is simply because of the situation in the world. We will talk a little bit about Corona, but we can also talk about climate change and other emergencies that are really pressing, to which organic agriculture can contribute. So you may be aware that IFOAM, together with our partner institution, the Research Institution for Organic Agriculture in Switzerland, FIBEL, publishes yearly a statistics book. And so the researchers of FIBEL do a wonderful work in bringing all the data together and also in improving the data gathering. And this book and the summary of it is also online, and I'm happy to show some of the results of it. The data are going back to the end of 2018 and were presented in the Biofach in Nuremberg this year in February. And next year, February, we will come up then with the latest data of 2019. And currently, our colleagues of FIBEL are working on that very hard. So let's move on. So some of the key data. It's about hectares that we have in the world, 71.5 million hectares. And that is 2.9% more than in 2017. Those hectares represent about, and I will say only, sadly enough, 1.5% of agriculture in the world. Nonetheless, as Amarjit already said, the market is growing very hard. And the same figure that you just saw in the former presentation, you see here in euro billions. So don't be confused. Amarjit presented them in US dollars. Here you see them in euros. What is very interesting, I think there are countries where the percentage of organic land is more than 10%. And also in India, you have states where this is happening. And this is so interesting because we can learn from that. How is the situation developing there? Is there really a shortage of food, for instance? How are farmers doing? How are their livelihoods? What is the overall situation? And we're learning as we go. Some of those countries we will see are in Europe, but they're also in other parts of the world. And very interesting, there are islands, for instance, that are completely organic. And yeah, not to, of course, I should mention also Sikkim and also Nagaland that have now a policy to go to 100% organic. And that's really a great effort. I will come back to the 2.8 million producers and where they are located later in the presentation. And then I'm focusing on countries with organic activities. And when we say that countries with organic activities, this responds to one of the chats that I saw coming by. Why isn't there one global organic regulation? That's a challenge, I know that. There are some countries or country groups that have agreed about one regulation, or at least that have agreed about equivalence of regulations. But this is an ongoing struggle, if you like. And IFOAM, our global organization for organic agriculture, tries to mediate in that conversation to actually show the different regulatory authorities that the majority of all the regulations on organic agriculture is similar. And it's important to show that and keep on showing that so that there can be free flow and free trade of organic products all over the world. And we do this not for the benefit of trade, but eventually for the benefit of those 2.8 million producers that we have. There's also a non-agricultural area that is certified as organic. And we then talk mainly about wild harvesting, for instance, of herbs, medicinal plants. So overall, there's a steady increase. And yeah, we every year are happy to be able to say the organic sector has grown again. Overall, if we look at the food sector, organic agriculture is the one that is growing. So next slide, please. This is just an overview, global map on where organic farming and farmers globally are situated. And I'm asking your attention for the amount of producers that is Asia, the majority of which is in India. And that in contrast with the markets, and that might sound very simple, but this has really implications for their production systems and also for the way that they need to get certified and able to get access to those markets. Next slide, please. So here you see the 10 countries with the largest area of organic agriculture land. And Australia is really the biggest one, and that has to do with really the extensive grazing that there is in Australia, and also the relatively easiness to transfer those extensive grazelands into organic. But we also see other countries with a huge area of organic land. And if we look at the next slide, please, then we see the countries that have at least 10%. So the former slide looked only at the overall area, but here we see the countries that have at least 10%. And these are the countries that are so interesting for us to learn. So how did they manage to come to this percentage? But also think about what the next step is. And I just want to take your thoughts from the past, just as Amarjit did. If we look, for instance, at a country like Sweden, if I think 20 years ago, their percentage might have been 3%. The effort that it takes for Sweden to come from 3 to 20% is enormous. And if we just put that same effort in the current almost 20%, it's not so hard to picture a future where, for instance, half of agriculture in Sweden could be organic. So it's the effort that we have put in the past on which we can build now to move organic forward. And as I said in the beginning, this is really necessary given the situation of our earth. Next slide, please. So this is then the growth over time of agricultural land and organic share in the world overall. And as I said already, we're at the end of 2018 at about 1.5% overall. But we're learning mainly from the countries where there is a high percentage. And we also see that the share over the last years is relatively steep. Some of these figures also have to do with how, over time, our colleagues from FEEBLE are able to improve their data gathering. And I can only commend them, give them a big compliment on the work that they do, because these figures are not only interesting for us when we look at markets. We know that these figures inform governments. They look at these figures. They look at what they need to do next. So it's very important that we have all these figures together. Next slide, please. So this is an overview on the producers, and I touched upon that earlier. And please look at the amount of producers that there is in India. So when we talk about organic producers worldwide, the majority of them actually is in India. So you are the country with the most organic producers. And I think that's something to be proud of. And also, if you like, a responsibility for the different governments that there are in your country. These organic producers have done a tremendous effort to bring organic where it is. And it's also their livelihoods, their skills that is behind this number. And now we saw that these producers, they're in India, the bigger markets for them are in other parts of the world. And that implies that the producers then also have to comply with regulations from other parts of the world. And I just want to take a moment to inform you about the EU regulation. I'm sure you're all aware that there is a new EU regulation. And exactly there, the topic of grower groups and internal control system is on the agenda. One reason that it's on the agenda is that the EU is going to introduce that in the European Union itself. So before, this was thought as a facility for groups of farmers to come together and get a certification as a group and therewith have access to the market. And these groups of farmers, from the perspective of the European Commission, were situated in other parts of the world. And now the EU also wants to apply this system to EU farmers. And suddenly the EU is going to look a little bit deeper, and it's going to change some of those rules. Now, IFOAM Organics International, with our colleagues from IFOAM Organics Europe, we're looking very, very carefully on how the EU is going to do that. Because exactly this number of producers in other parts of the world is behind it. And we must make sure that their life is not going to be more difficult, their access to markets should not be more difficult, exactly to make sure that also they can profit from this growing market. There's one more thing that I want to say to this slide, and that goes along with what Amarjit said before, that there is an increased interest in local food markets, and I'm sure this is also the case in India. And I also want to commend and give a compliment on PGS India, the developments that have been tremendous, from which also other parts in the world have learned a lot. So we're talking here about participatory guarantee systems, certification systems for local markets, where consumers can be sure that the produce is really organic, but that does not have the, if you like, external burden of third-party certification. Thank you. So here, this is the link that I wanted to make from the producers to the organic retail sales. But I think that Amarjit has said enough on this, so please go to the next slide. So in conclusion, we can be very happy that the organic area and market continues to grow, and that keeps on going, and that is a sort of, yeah, how do you say, comfortable place where we come from. But as I said already, this is not enough. What is very interesting is that by the end of 2019, production is growing faster than in the past. And so far, the balance in the market was most of the time that the demand was higher than the supply, and there was always a sort of tension in it. But currently, or at least at the end of 2019, it looked that the production was keeping on pace with the demand. That's great. But now we have COVID-19, and actually, as Amarjit already said, that supports an increasing demand. That's interesting to see, that's positive, but we don't know how that will work out on the long end. And while there is an increased interest for healthy food, everybody's also very, very concerned about what the impact of COVID-19 will be on our economies. And for instance, in the US, which is the biggest market in organic, we have seen that the economy has collapsed basically over the last month. And that will definitely also have impact on how people will spend their money on what kind of food. So while we have seen positive trends at the end of 2019, we're somewhat unsure where COVID-19 brings us. There's another impact of COVID-19, and that really has to do with supply chains. We have also seen in all parts of the world that supply chains have been disturbed. For instance, farmers in the US, dairy farmers had to just throw away their milk because there was nobody available to actually collect the milk. So there are many of these examples where supply chains are not functioning well, and also that will have an impact on the market. So this is the challenge overall, to keep demand and supply in balance and to the positive in balance. And as Amarjit already also said, there are other sustainability labels that are increasingly gaining ground. We welcome that. We think whole of agriculture need to move to more sustainability. But at the same time, we're also saying that we should be clear on what organic stands for. And yes, multiple certification is gaining importance. And that again is also one of the reasons why IFOAM Organics International is working with some of those other schemes that Amarjit also showed on an improved and unified internal control system. Again, to make life easier of all the smallholder groups that are out there. And as I said earlier already, data collection is very, very important, and we use that also to influence policymakers, which actually is one of the biggest works of IFOAM Organic International. I want to invite you, so I want to go to the next slide, please, to join us for the I Grow Your Food campaign. And when I invite you, that means you and the farmers that are behind your companies. We will launch the I Grow Your Food campaign September 25. And I'm sure you're aware September 25 this year marks the first 5 years of the SDGs. And in our part of the world, there's quite some negativity on the negative impact that farmers have, for instance, on our environment, on climate change. Some of the farmers feel really disturbed by that. But at the same time, we also know that organic farmers contribute to the overall good. And so what we want to do with I Grow Your Food at September 25 is give a positive sign and celebrate all the farmers who grow our food. And for that, we organize this campaign. Everybody can contribute. Just look at our website. Next slide, please. So this just shows you that you can create your own message. As I said, you're all welcome to contribute. And to my last slide, please. The other invitation that I have for you is please join IFOAM, be part of the solution, and make sure that we are together a strong organic movement. So far my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louise, for that excellent presentation as always. And to some of our viewers, these sessions are recorded and they will be available at the BioFark India as well as the BioReporter International YouTube channels. To Louise, last time we touched on some of the Indian market questions, and I will have a question for you about that. But just to inform you that we have already touched on this EU regulation, and our next webinar will have Marion Blom from the VP of IFOAM EU, as well as from Netherlands, and how they are coping with this EU regulation, as well as the Indian expert certifying body experts to show how we can mitigate that. So my question to you is, you touched upon the milk question, but how has been this impact of COVID on the producers? You know, we are very interested to know from the producer angle, how is that affected? Because you're then born and you have a view of the moment worldwide from the other continents. How has this impacted the producers, COVID pandemic?
Thanks for your question. How has it impacted the producers? In several ways. As Amarjit already said, demand is increasing. Whoa, that's great. The other impact that it has, how do we organize farm workers? Many of the organic producers also use seasonal workers. In this part of the world, the seasonal workers come from other countries, and in the beginning it was just not possible for them to come. And that also has reduced some of the production and therewith also the income of the farmers. There are other things that are here equally important impacting farmers, and that's the continuous drought that we have. So this is the third year in a row that there is way too little rain, and we can see that. We can still see that organic farmers doing relatively good, provided they are long there, they have good soils, that really helps them to mitigate the impact. But this is a challenging situation for everybody. So what I'm saying is that we are adding up a couple of crises together that is challenging for all farmers. The advantage still for the organic farmers is that there is such a high demand for their goods that we just also see the prices going up. And people are still willing to pay that in this part of the world, at least. For other parts, I think we have other impacts there. In some parts of the world, it was not even allowed for farmers to go on their fields. For me, that's such a huge infringement on what it means to be a farmer in the first place. I mean, that's your profession and your life, and then not being able to do so. And then, of course, all the impact that it will have on the incomes as well. So we see a mixed picture, and we also not sure yet where it brings us. I think at this moment, things are settled down a little bit, but here in Germany, we see outbreaks of COVID left and right, mainly also where, there is a density of farm workers together. And I think in this case, we should not differentiate too much between organic and conventional farmers. We're really all under the same situation.
Amarjit, one question for you. So you talked about the impact of COVID, and as Louise now showed from the farmer's side, from the production side, it would be great to have your estimation on the trade side. So how do you think is the organic sector, the organic trade ready for digitalization? Is the availability and the trade as a whole impacted, and how deeply is it impacted, please?
It's a good question. The short answer is we don't know. We're still in the middle of the pandemic. The preliminary data that we have was that in March and April, as the pandemic started, there was a surge in demand for natural and organic products. Part of that was possibly artificial. You know, there was a lot of stockpiling. People were buying a lot more products to fill up in their wardrobes. It's still too early to say, you know, what the long-term impact is going to be. I think things will be a lot clearer by the end of the year. But also, you know, to put some context, we don't know how long this pandemic is going to remain. So it could be until the end of the year, it could be 1 year, 2 years. But the preliminary data that we have is that consumers are more concerned about health and wellness. Organic food sales have increased. Whether they will sustain and by how much, it remains to be seen. And as Louise said, some of the economies are going through a very difficult time. You know, when people are scared about their jobs and they're scared about having income to feed their families, that could have a negative impact on organic food sales, indeed all food purchases. So, so it's still early days, but you know, I think demand for organic foods have increased, but we're not sure what the long-term impact is going to be and for how long.
Unfortunately. Thank you very much. So I hand over to you, Sandeep.
Yeah, thanks Amarjit, thanks Louise. Very, very informative as always. You know, this webinar is part of a series which BioReporter International is curating for BioFAC India. So we have a short video. Ravi, can we have the video, please?
It's a pleasure to see everybody coming together in terms of all stakeholders of the organic industry coming under one roof.
Agriculture is good for the earth. We know that. It's good for our environment. However, organic agriculture does so much more.
Dear participants, like we mentioned earlier, we really want your feedback. So we are going to have a quick poll now to take your idea of what is the impact of COVID on Indian exports. So I will start the poll and you'll have about 15 seconds. So please answer the question to the poll. What is the impact of organic exports from India actually due to the COVID, but also the EU regulations? So I will share the results of this poll. We have a slide thing which says it's a -10 and slightly below +10. And to know the answer to this, we will find out next time from our EU regulations webinar, as well as the next speakers will give us an idea of how correct or our participants were. So I'm very happy to introduce now Mr. Saurabh Tiwari from Organic India. He's the Chief Sales and Marketing person for Organic India. And he has experience for 14 years with the company and a couple of decades before that. He's an MBA graduate and he has started his career, like I said, 2 days ago with ITC, with Tata Tea and the Vardhaman Group before joining Organic India. He's a regular consumer of his products and he really believes in living the brand. So Saurabh ji, over to you.
Good afternoon to the organic audience, which itself is not only taking care of the mother nature, rather influencing society by large in promoting organic across the globe. going back to the roots, in the current pandemic time, when nothing is working, the only thing which is working is like the way you have built your immunity over a period of time. Organic India vision and mission. So to be a vehicle of consciousness in the global market by creating holistic, sustainable business modality, which inspires, promotes, and supports true wellness and respect for all being and the Mother Earth. We being organic, the entire organic fraternity is like we are working for taking care of the mother nature. And we have been working, I could see we have been working here for decades. And still we were we are organic, we are not in the mainstream. So so the vision and mission of Organic India, which I think we started our company in 1997, from there to here, the journey has been really fantastic. So our mission is to be a trustworthy and innovative global leader in providing genuine organic wellness products and solutions for a conscious, healthy living. So Organic India has been innovative philosophy leading the way ahead. So if you see Organic India, we started 20 years back. 20 years back, we started talking about the whole herb concept. The concept of whole herb was not there. And we initially started the concept of whole herb. Like we said, instead of taking out the extract from the herbs, we were powdered, the herbs were cut into micron cutting and putting in the vegetable capsules. The concept of whole herb and the kind of range we had in supplements. Today, during the pandemic times, most of the herbs are in demand, like turmeric, ashwagandha, guduchi, amrita, moleity, and licorice, and many other herbs. So all those herbs are already there. So when we started in 1997, we launched all these supplements and Tulsi. And Tulsi today, Tulsi tea is one of the most lovable brand product in the market. And we have been seeing the surge in demand across the globe. Our portfolio is more than 150 SKUs, ranging from Tulsi tea infusions, herbal supplements, and packaged foods. The future belongs to, now I can say, we all know the future belongs to organic wellness industry. So opportunities. There has been a huge opportunity. We have been always talking about opportunity in organic sector. Now, when we talk about health and wellness, so alternative and preventive medicine and holistic wellness is the need of the hour now. So we have realized it's not the allopathy which is going to work, it is the natural immunity. So the alternative medicine is the need of the hour now. Ayurveda is getting acknowledged across the globe, and acceptance is there. Organic supplements are highly accepted everywhere. Healthy conscious living it has become the lifestyle now. So everyone has realized now, in the today's time, consuming organic is something which is in the top of the mind, and being healthy conscious, because you have to be conscious for living healthy. So the healthy conscious living becomes at the top of the mind. Organic farming is gaining popularity across the globe now. See the challenges, the most important challenge, if you see, in the operational factor. So I have heard with few of our panelists has also mentioned that during the pandemic times, the distribution, supplies, and connectivity became one of the key issues. Farmers were finding it difficult to grow, and logistics was also one of the key issues. So the companies which are able to manage all these farmers, vendors, and distributors, and you have enough in the pipeline, only those companies are viable, and in today's time, they are able to make profits, and they are able to pay to the vendors on time. Measures has to be taken for the employees and associate people. I'm from the sales and marketing, so my around 800 and 1,000 people are working in the market during the pandemic time. Daily they are working, so that safety is important. So morale of the farmer is very important, because the farmer needs money on time. So employees, vendors need money on time. So the supply chain, the distributors, so the entire pipeline chain becomes important. So if you are able to manage the cash flow, if you are able to manage the raw material, because the raw materials prices are escalating. You must be aware the prices of ashwagandha, prices of tulsi, prices of licorice, all these raw material prices are surging because of the high in demand. So the production is important. With the production, you need to have a proper pipe. The chain has to be, the supply chain becomes very important. Even the testing is a problem these days during pandemic times. Certification bodies are unable to move. the testing is also equally important. So all these challenges has to be addressed, and the companies which are able to proactively answer and do these things will be the successful companies. Inventory and supply chain management. Agro team, the role of agro team is becoming very important. What kind of relationship over a period of time you have built with the farmers. So you need to have the sourcing has to be cost-effective sourcing, because suddenly you can't increase the price by 30-40%. So that becomes very important. With Organic India, the processing units are with the farmlands. So that is our key business model, where we are able to get the produce to our processing unit, because they are widely placed and they are placed with the farmlands. Analysis and forecast of raw material, because the raw material forecasting is important. The companies which are able to forecast well and which has forecasted, because the new financial year started. So that is becoming very important. If you have forecasted it well, you have enough inventory, and then only you are able to supply on time. And yeah, thank you. So the changing dynamics, innovative marketing. So you see, in the changing times, the focus is shifting from traditional marketing to the digital marketing. Entire things are not working. So digital marketing and e-commerce is taking the front seat. How are you able to communicate with the customers, with the target audience? So educational and content-based marketing becomes very important, and which is the need of the hour. The launch of new products as per the need of the market, demand and scenario. Herbs which are having high ORAC value, like tulsi, gulai, cinnamon, ginger, clove, and amlaki, we could see very high in demand. Organizational systems and infrastructure. If you are able to manage, the online system globally, you are able to supply to your distributors, to your customers well on time, and if you are able to optimize your SEO, bloggers and emails, campaigns, media post, and more of the customer engagement, and you need to build that community. So community building is important. At the same time, you need to supply. The stock connectivity becomes very important here. When we talk about the future trends, the demand for organic and natural products are on rise. We could see huge demand in last 4 or 5 months. There has been a demand which is 100 times more than what we used to supply. The real opportunity lies with organic natural products focusing on holistic wellness. So I have also heard from one of the panelists saying, so it's a momentary demand, but if you are into health and wellness, this demand is not going to change. This demand is going to, so the market dynamics are changing. So the conventional to organic, okay, the people habits are changing now. The current situation, what I could see is current situation is going to push organic and natural player towards the mainstream business. So when we talk about mainstream and organic stream, so we are always considered to be a niche market. So the niche market is going to multiply. There is an explosion which is going to happen in the organic sector, in the health and wellness sector, which we are observing. Global organic and natural stores are going to rise from handful to many folds now. So need to have a robust sales strategy. So I would like to share you our month to date performance, April, May, June, July. Organic India, we have seen 87% surge in demand. Our demand has been by 87% growth. North America contributed to 80% growth. Europe and Central Asia, 111% growth. Middle East and North Africa, 300% growth. East Asia and Pacific, so they are like, for example, the seasonality of Australia, so we shipped the last quarter majorly. So demand has been really high, but which is not because we haven't shipped in this quarter. Latin America and Caribbean has a huge demand. They are also 72% and 170% from Africa, South Africa. So brick and mortar stores are growing at a 2.8%, vis-a-vis e-commerce has grown by 10 times, which is 26% growth towards e-commerce market in America. And if you see the graph, the natural players is going to increase now. Going forward, you see the pie for the natural players is going to increase, and the e-commerce. Two things which are going to work majorly would be the e-commerce and the natural stores. So when the natural stores are going to increase, so we have huge potential. Companies from India, you get huge opportunity to supply to America, because we have seen huge demand for America and for our, for example, health and wellness supplements supplement is growing at a pace of 61% in 2020. So this is huge opportunity for all of us. I'll show you our research. If you see the percentage of respondents in the first week of March, you see 11% of the, see the slide, 11% were buying more digitally. Okay, 78% were buying normally what they were buying, and 11% were buying less through online. Now, second week, you see 11% has gone up to 16%. 16% people started buying more of the digital, through digital. And third week was 30%, fourth week of March was 37% during the lockdown period. So fourth week of March, 37% increase in online. So online is growing. So that's very important for us. And the strategy has to be towards online. I would like to share some of the pictures of Organic India plays in the market globally. These are our activations, our retail placements, and our store placements. See, most of the places we do promotions, we do activations, we offer a cup of tea, and a lot of promotions are going around, and we could see huge demand. So across the globe, we are doing a lot of activations from the pharmacy stores, from organic stores, mainline stores. A lot of activations are happening together. See, these are some of the pictures of this is our distributor for Spain, Eduardo. We do a lot of activation, a lot of trade fairs, create demand for our products internationally. We see a lot of placement of Organic India. Again, activations and these things are growing. Our placement is growing. We have increased our placement in last 2-3 years. We have increased our placement to Europe by more than 3,500 outlets. The placement is increasing, demand is increasing, and so is the confidence of the farmers. We are able to pay all our vendors well on time, and we are making sure that farmers are paid on time. So basically, if you see this changing times, I could see huge demand of Organic India, organic products across the globe. There's a lot of positivity which I see within the company, in the society, and I see the demand of organic is growing across.
Thank you very much, Saurabh, for that very interesting presentation, and we are very happy and proud to see Indian products around the globe. Karen, over to you.
Thank you very much. So now we have to hurry up a bit. We are running out of time, but it's my pleasure, and I take the time to introduce Surya Shastry, the Managing Director of Phalada Agro Research Foundations Private Limited, one of the largest organic companies based in South India. Phalada, established in 1999, and today is dedicated to producing high-quality organic products, collaborating with a network of more than 2,500 farmers. Surya joined the parent company in 2008 and led the inception of the organic food brand Phalada Pure and Sure in 2011 to provide Indian consumers with 100% organic food. Phalada procures and processes over 10,000 metric tons of organic crops and exports it to over 25 countries across the world. Surya pursued an executive education program in international business management from the reputed Indian Institute of Management and a bachelor from Bangalore University. He has received prestigious awards for his work, and Surya is extremely passionate about building organic food as a category, making people aware about its benefits and ensuring its reach across the world. So we are looking forward to your presentation, Surya. The screen is yours, please.
Thank you, Karen, for the very nice introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Really happy to be presenting this with you guys today. Since Karen has already given an introduction about myself and the company, I'm not going to go over it again, but just to give you a quick I represent a company called Phalada Agro, which has been in the organic food space for the last 21 odd years. Primarily focused on organic spices, herbs, oils, coffee, coconuts, and plant-based meat alternatives. So that's broadly what the categories that we are in, and we export to close to 25 different countries from India. Yeah, just to give a quick numbers and the market size, if I had to kind of say, the Indian organic exports has been growing consistently, and I think it opened up, and we got our NPOP or the international certification sometime in 2003. Between 2001 and 2003 was when it was formed, and since then the market has been growing consistently, and today it has reached to a size of over 5,000 crore in exports. So as you can see, the market is definitely growing, but still it is at a relatively smaller size. We have just about hit $1 billion and close to $1 billion, when the overall world market size is close to 100 billion. So there's definitely a lot of potential for India to make a huge difference in the international space by exporting organic producers from India. The major share of this 5,000 crore, if I had to kind of say, is processed products, and followed by oil seeds, cereals, sugar, tea, and spices, and non-food products like coconut and basmati rice. And basmati rice is also one of the top contributors to this 5,000 crore figure that you see. The top countries or the regions importing organic produce from India are USA, EU, and Canada. These would be the major chunk of whatever that we export is consumed by these regions. The Indian share of the global organic market is just about 0.75. So like I said, so there's definitely huge potential for us to for growth here in this category. Currently, where India's export is lacking are in categories like fresh fruits and vegetables, dairy products, meat and fish, and frozen products. Yeah, now to address some of the, of course, as a category itself, there's a huge potential for organic in the export space. I'm going to touch upon a few areas or categories where I feel there is a lot of potential and opportunities. Right? One of them is medicinal herbs. We've been in the export of medicinal herbs for a really long time now, and we've seen continuous growth in this category. But we expect the opportunities to increase further now, given this whole COVID situation impacting the whole world. There's a lot of stress and need for medicinal herbs and spices, and we anticipate further growth in this category. We export medicinal herbs like tulsi, ashwagandha, and amla, and we've in these last 4 to 5 months, we have seen a considerable increase for these products. In some of them, we've seen more than 50% increase, and in some of them, a 100% increase too. The primary markets that are going in again is US and Europe, and we have been getting demands from the importers who are into herbal tea manufacturers, supplement manufacturers, and extract companies. So we definitely see a huge potential for these products in these markets targeted to these kind of customers. Right? Sorry, can we just go back? Yeah. Ayurvedic formulations like Triphala and Chyawanprash has also seen an increase in demand. And we anticipate that going ahead, there'll be a lot more demand for these kind of Ayurvedic formulations, provided they are the popular ones with known researched health benefits in general. Right? And apart from this, turmeric, which has already been trending for some time now, since the last 2 years, things like turmeric latte or golden milk has gained a lot of popularity across the world. And we anticipate turmeric to continue to be mainstream and having more and more popularity during this pandemic and beyond also. Another category that we have seen a lot of opportunities in and a lot of growth has been in the plant-based alternatives. This has been one of the fastest growing category in the US and in Europe. In the US itself, it's almost close to a $4.5 billion market there. And it's expected to be about 31 billion USD by 2026. India has a huge opportunity to develop these products or develop value-added products in this space, because a lot of the plant-based, what goes into a plant-based alternative, the ingredients are something that we have in abundance. So as a category, this is definitely expected to grow further, and we can capitalize on it using our ingredients that we have in the organic, with our organic farmers growing it. So the main ingredients that are going into plant-based alternatives or plant-based meat alternatives are things like pulses, almond, jackfruit, cashew. And for all of these products, there is a huge farmer base growing organic products, and growing these products organically. And it's just about finding the right R&D to kind of develop these products, and there is a huge potential for these that is unexplored and potential to grow. The third category which I see a huge potential is in the export of fresh produce. Right? And we do grow a lot of different herbs and spices and stuff, and most of them are dried and processed and sent across. But there is an equally huge demand for these products in the fresh category too, where I think today we are lacking considerably. The major market for fresh produce is in the EU. While organic Alfonso mango has been popular in the export space for some time now, and it's seen its share of growth, there's a potential for a lot of other products in this category, like fruits like chiku, papaya, pineapple, jackfruit, has a lot of potential to be big in the organic fresh produce space, especially in the EU market. Fresh coconuts is also something there is a lot of demand in EU, and there is a gap for us to fill in from India if we're able to kind of supply to these markets. And also things like what also works in our favor is most of the import of fresh produce happens from South America to Europe currently. Where we stand an opportunity is that from a seasonality point of view, a lot of our seasonality is different from the South American season. So what it gives an opportunity is that when the South America is kind of exhausted with their season, we fit in correctly to kind of cater to the demand that is there in the EU. Like for example, turmeric season, when the turmeric season ends in Peru, the Indian season kind of starts. So we fit in perfectly, and there's a huge opportunity that's there to kind of fill in this demand that is currently being unfulfilled because of the seasonality issue that they face for these kind of products. The biggest challenge in this space is primarily the infrastructure facilities that are available, especially certified organic facilities like pack houses and stuff. There are not many out there, and because most of these have to move in reefer containers and stuff, there's a bit of a challenge in that space, if I had to kind of say. And yeah, that being said, I personally kind of see these three as the major trend or opportunity space in the organic food export from India. and definitely there's a lot of potential for companies producing these out of India to kind of capitalize on these opportunities and help the industry grow.
Thank you so much, Surya, and thank you all the speakers for the very, very informative session. Dear viewers and participants, I would request you as well as the panelists that we may go 10 minutes over the scheduled close time of 4 because there are many, many questions here and we will not be able to answer all of them. But we will take one each for each of our panelists and then we will ask them for their takeaways. But you can still write all your questions to biofark.webinar@nm-india.com. I will put that in the chat box and we will try to answer those questions by email. So my first question to Louise, also with a comment, there were a lot of questions about, how do we know about this traceability and things like that. So I would request all of you to join the Agro My Food, the hashtag which Louise shared on the IFOAM.bio website, and then you can really know who your farmers are. And Louise, we have a question for you regarding this PGS, because you also mentioned PGS and then there's this third party. So are we going to see some kind of harmonization between these two different approaches to certification?
Thank you for your question. I think yes and no. The good thing about PGS, I think, is that it's really localized. There where the farmers are, they can agree on their own standards. And of course, these standards in the PGS systems are based on the principles of organic agriculture as we have them, and we agree upon them globally. But this might differ per locality, how this works out in practice. And an advantage of standards is at the same time a disadvantage of formal standards. And that if these standards need to apply for farmers all over that are in different localities, I think that is a challenge. And the lovely thing with PGS is this, that you can focus on your locality. So whether there will be a formal alignment of these standards, I'm not sure. I think what we need to strive for is recognition of PGS systems. And that is way more important. So recently, the Filipino organic movement together with IFOAM were able to have PGS systems recognized as organic. That means that as a citizens of a village or a town in the Philippines, I can be sure that I buy organic from locally produced, from local farmers if they have the PGS label. And it's fantastic that the government has now finally also recognized it in their organic regulation. That is the important part to go for. And then I think the fact whether these standards are equal is not that important. It's about the recognition and the oversight of the PGS systems as such. I hope that responds to your question.
Yes, thank you so much. Karen, over to you.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask you, Amarjit, as you elaborated, there are hundreds of labels, so that was impressive also to our audience. Do you think there is a possibility or ongoing efforts to merge all these organic and sustainable brands and logos to one or a few global ones? What is your estimation?
It's a good question, and it's a question that's been asked to us many, many times. And from the way we've been observing, I think it's only going to increase. There's going to be more and more proliferation. And something which I didn't cover in my presentation, we're also seeing more and more in-house schemes. Companies like Nestle, Mondelez Foods, companies like General Mills are developing their own schemes for sustainable sourcing, which are organic light or aspects of fair trade. And just in the news a few weeks ago was that a big chocolate producer here, Kit Kat, they're going to drop fair trade certification for their own in-house scheme. So unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be a reduction. There's going to be more and more. And even in the organic food industry, we're very lucky we have one EU organic logo for Europe. You have one USDA for the US market. But if you look at Asia, the number of different organic logos they have, a separate one for Korea, a separate one for Japan, another one, China, I think has got 3. You've got countries like Hong Kong, Taiwan, and they all have their own organic standards and their own organic logos. So unfortunately, the way forward, is going to be more and more logos.
That's really somehow a mess also for the consumer to orientate, and also for farmers what to take, and for manufacturers what to put on the packaging. So, but seems not to be solved.
Since we are on these challenges, let me ask now, Saurabh ji, you mentioned 3,500 stores in Europe with Organic India products. And how are you managing this logistics now in this time of COVID, in India, we have an issue, in Europe, there's been issues with the outbreak. How are these 3,500 stores getting stocked with Organic India products?
Suddenly, when lockdown started, announced in India on 22nd of March, things were standstill, and obviously it was very difficult. As per our business model, what we used to do, each of the distributors used to keep an inventory of domestic operations is 60 days, and international operations. Our distributors, which are more than 14 numbers, each country we have distributors. So 40 countries we are supplying. In America, we have many distributors. So they are holding an inventory of at least 4 or 5 months. And then we used to supply. So the inventory holding becomes very important at the distribution point. All of the distribution point was holding inventory for 3 to 4 months. So in the pandemic times, immediate demand was fulfilled. Some of the products, as Surya also mentioned about ashwagandha and amlaki. So amlaki, our distributors were very high in demand for ashwagandha, turmeric. So those products were immediately out of stock. So we anticipated that, and immediately we had inventory at the factory also. At the same time, the backend becomes very important. So I also mentioned that the Agro team plays very important role, and your projections are important. So we keep an inventory. We have warehouses, we have processing units in different parts of the country wherever we are producing. So inventory was there with us, and we are able to connect immediately. So for the first month was tough. Second month, we tried to improvise things, and most of the distributors were holding inventories. So I could see there wasn't any loss to Organic India in terms of supply connectivity. We had enough inventory, and the back end also we are strong. And from April onwards, we were able to manage things. And in the current time, we could see the demand for the next year. So we are working for next year demand, which is 21-22. So we're working on that. So you have to be proactive in keeping the right inventory at different times. At the same time, back-end operation has to be strong enough to hold inventories.
So thank you so much. Karen, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And so for Surya, there's one special question from our question answer box, and that concerns about your Pure and Sure brand that is now available in India, but maybe as it is so successful, and also could you make it also available, or are there plans to put it also on exports?
Yeah, so when we started Pure and Sure about 8-9 years back, the primary objective was to be an India-focused brand. So we spent these last 8-9 years to kind of set up the distribution here and get the supply chain right and everything going here. But that being said, we have started to kind of export under our brand also. So we've just started in Dubai and Japan, and then Vietnam, and then Singapore and Mauritius also. So we're just covering up the areas in and around Asia and Southeast Asia and a little bit of the Middle East. And maybe then beyond, we'll take it to the US and Europe also. So yeah, we definitely have plans of export too, and we're just exploring those markets now with our brand.
So Surya, may I ask you to start with the key takeaways you have for this webinar today, the kind of exports, and what are your learnings from today?
Yeah, so the key takeaways would be that definitely it kind of reassured also that the market definitely is out there for India to increase its exports to a lot of other countries around the world. And generally the overall trend and everything indicates that organic is here to stay and here to grow further. And 3, there were some of the key interesting points that did come up Also when Amarjit was presenting, also were, and even we do face the challenge of so many different certifications now, getting more and more labels, getting more and more popular. So it becomes a challenge from a supplier point of view or from a farmer-based point of view to kind of get all of these certifications, and then so that is a big challenge. That was one of the takeaways for me from this overall webinar.
Take away some message for our audience for the next minute or two.
Yeah, one of the best things is like you have, as Amarjit said, food for thought. His presentation had too much of data, and Louise, when she presented, I have too many data now to analyze. There is a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential, and I remember when I joined Organic India 14 years back. So we were said, you are organic, what is organic? So a lot of questions were asked in India. Organic sector itself was questionable. Now today, when I say I work for Organic India, a lot of respect we command. So the data which was shown by both the presenters, I think huge opportunities there, and we have not even touched the tip of the iceberg. So that gives a lot of confidence to me. In the changing times, the future is ours. The new normal would be for us. So for new normal would be for the organic players. For us is a good time. I could see in the time when everybody is locked down, I'm sitting at my home, I'm working for 14, 15 hours a day. Huge, the confidence is high. So everything I could see, there is a lot of positivity, and I think these data will certainly help me in redefining the business model for the different countries.
Thank you so much, Saurabh, for that. So like I said, that from the failure of that green revolution, let's now go to our evergreen revolution with organic. Karen, over to you.
Amarjit, I would like to ask you also for your takeaways from this webinar, please.
Okay, the first thing I want to say is the future is still very bright for the organic industry. As I showed, we've gone from $18 billion to $105 billion. And so the market is still going to grow. The question is, how will it grow in a post-COVID market? What we're beginning to see is a big shake-up of supply chains in the way ingredients are being sourced and the way retailers are buying and selling their organic products. So there's going to be a big shake-up, and the implications to India are going to be fairly big, because if you're a European retailer and now you want to source more locally within Europe or from Central Eastern Europe, then they will not want to supply from Asia or from Latin America or reduce their supply. And another big takeaway for me is that India has got an emerging economy, you've got a burgeoning middle class, and you have a lot of new organic enterprises. I think the future may be less of an export focus, but more of a domestic focus, where you're catering more for the local market, and that will also protect the industry from these shocks of future viruses and of supply chains, where you're exporting a lot to USA and to Europe. So the key takeaway there is maybe we need to start changing our focus for some of these enterprises and start looking at more locally, if not regionally.
Thank you. Yeah, important.
Thanks. Yeah. So Louisa, over to you for your key takeaways from this session and a few words for our participants.
Thank you for this opportunity. I think what we've seen in this session, that yes, there is optimism and the future is green, or maybe we should also say it otherwise, there is no future except the green one. We should be very clear about that. But we also see that we are in a vulnerable situation due to COVID, and there are many aspects to it. But I think the context in which this all takes place, the global politics, the politics of all the countries, that is one of consciousness. So we have seen FAO coming up with scaling up agroecology. We see several governments where actually the government officials come to institutions like IFOAM to ask for advice. So we're really beyond the point that what we earlier said, we were the few one in a niche, but really we're coming out there, and that's great. And also shows that we have a responsibility there and need to stick to where we come from, and that is the principles of organic agriculture.
Thank you so much for all the speakers for those wonderful sessions. And please, dear participants, you will receive an email with a feedback form. Please do fill that out because we can make these webinars better. And Karen, over to you.
Please don't forget and tune on Thursday, August 20th, when we talk about the very important topic, new regulation, new EU regulations and its impact on organic exporters from India and mitigating measures. We will have international experts for that and also Indian experts from the industry and from certification bodies. So please register, you will get an invitation from us, and don't forget to fill out the feedback. We will value that very much to improve our format, hashtag organic webinars. And we thank also Nuremberg Messe India and Biofach India for this opportunity to hold these webinars. I think it's a good platform to inform all stakeholders of the organic industries all over the world. Thanks to all our panelists, and yeah, hope to see you back as an attendee next time. And yeah, so we are just in time, or just a bit over time, but that's fine for us. And so we can close this session, and thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye, yeah. And also just on your screen is the date for the upcoming webinar, what Karen mentioned, and we will have a video for you as well, our ending video. So thank you once again, all the panelists, and thank you attenders, and see you 2 weeks from now, same time, same place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.